3, 2, 1. All right, Bob, we are live again on another Monday. How you doing?
I'm doing great. As his history with this early show is technical difficulties right out the gate.
Oh, yes, but we're using new software this week, so I'm hoping that it won't be at least that problem for us this week. So did you do anything fun this weekend?
Actually, I did do something fun. I ran a 5K yesterday and was not very well trained for that 5K, so feeling it a little bit this morning.
Oh yeah, how did you do? How'd you place?
Oh, it wasn't like a chipped race or anything. It was a fun race to raise funds for suicide prevention services in my town. So you basically just go out there to, have a good time. A lot of people dressed in holiday gear. Just good fun stuff. My goal was just to finish.
Got you. So this was in Batavia, Illinois, then?
Yes, it was in beautiful sunny Batavia. It was a little chilly at the start of the race, but finished out just fine.
Awesome. And so we got our first significant snowfall of the season here in sunny, sometimes of the year, Columbia City, Indiana. So yeah, I spent most of my weekend trying to relax, trying to figure out some of this new software we're using, and doing jigsaw puzzles with the family. It's kind of a thing we do. So
Nice.
all right, Bob, let's switch on over, if we can, to our poll from last week. Is what is your favorite brand of coffee? And you want to go ahead and lay the results on us?
Yeah, so the results are in. We had a whopping 24 votes this week, so maybe we can get that up for our poll this week. But it seems like overwhelmingly people are into supporting their local coffee brewers and coffee shops. So Other Coffee came in with 50% of the vote, 29% tea. So that I think that says a little bit about the physical location of some of our audience that's voted, and Starbucks came in at 21, and Duncan got the big goose egg.
All right, and so we have a new poll, and we haven't got to the topic yet. We will come back to this in a little bit. We'll explain it, so you can go ahead and vote if you know about the topic. But we will cover that here in a little bit. Okay, so what we want to remind everyone is we're at Bob and Kevin Show on Twitter. Please go ahead and follow us if you can. We would love to hear from you. So if you want to get in touch with the show, go ahead and tweet at us at Bob and Kevin Show. All right, Bob. I think without further ado, we're going to hit up the tech headlines here. Got some
All right.
new fancy toys here. The first thing that I want to kind of get into is just kind of current events. If we look at the Bitcoin pizza here, you can see the value of Bitcoin pizza is trending along. This is one of those kind of fun little Twitter accounts where you can kind of track Bitcoin a little bit. And we've got a little more Bitcoin topics to talk about today. So, Bob, I'm going to ask you a question here. What does your cryptocurrency portfolio look like these days?
My cryptocurrency portfolio is a big shiny goose egg. I don't think I have any cryptocurrency in any of my current investment portfolio.
All right, that's unfortunate because right now, if we look at the Coinbase, which is a website that handles cryptocurrency, they've got some pretty sexy charts, and hopefully we can use this without getting into trouble here. But it looks like Bitcoin currently is trading at $16,800. It's only up $10,000 in the last month. And that's a 162% increase. And its sister item there is Ethereum. And that one is trending, I believe, right around $450-ish. So, Bob, more questions. What do you know about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, Ethereum, these sorts of things?
I don't know tons about it. I don't understand how it's being traded. I will say that it is a topic of conversation even at my dinner table at home. So I should probably be learning more about it. So hopefully you could tell me a little bit about it.
Sure, I will attempt. So basically, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies in general are underpinned by the blockchain technology, which is yet another buzzword, and for me to keep track of. But it's really cool because it's a distributed ledger of sorts. So imagine several computers that all conspire together, create a consortium, or they agree upon the fact that Bob, you gave me 1 Bitcoin. If let's say there's 3 servers out there, and there's thousands of them. Let's say you give me a coin. 2 of the 3 say that yes, you did, but the other one disputes that. Guess what? You actually did give me the coin according to the voting, and this decentralization makes sure that nobody can go back and tamper with items. So there's a cool video that Taylor Smith, my coworker and resident Bitcoin expert at Tonic, laid upon me, and I will put that in the comments after, or the description afterwards. And it's really cool. It kind of explains blockchain. Basically, you're always putting something on the beginning of this chain of items, and if you want to change something way back in the past, basically tamper or make an alteration, what will happen is it creates it's makes it very computationally difficult to do. So that's.
But is it possible?
Oh, it's absolutely possible, but there comes the consortium. So if you have 100 servers and they're all saying that Bob, you gave me a coin back in the past, and this one server's trying to say, no, 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 you didn't. You gave me 100, or I'm trying to hack it. It will get overruled by the other ones and say, no, I'm sorry, that didn't happen that way. The real trouble with a distributed ledger, though, has to do with law enforcement, and this is what kind of scares the cryptocurrency crowds, is you can't serve a warrant to 1,000 servers because it's very anonymous, and that's kind of the point. So it's a very pure thing in that sense. So Bitcoin then is a currency. So essentially, it's trying to replace paper money with completely digital money. It requires, I believe, a private key in your wallet to prove that you're who you say you are. If you lose your private key, guess what? You lost your Bitcoin. Bitcoin requires confirmations, and so if you give me 2 coins, I can't turn around and spend those 2 coins right away until those distributed ledgers confirm the transaction. That can take anywhere from seconds to days to a week or more.
I heard the confirmations are taking a really long time just because of all the activity with the currency itself.
Absolutely. And so, from a practical standpoint, that actually hurts the adoption of Bitcoin, essentially. And a little factoid for you. So, there's many cryptocurrencies out there. There's Bitcoin. We're going to talk about Ethereum next, and then there's Litecoin and several other. But if you just take the top 2, which is Ethereum and Bitcoin, and figure out how much computational energy is required to do these transactions, it is actually the equivalent of the energy required to run the entire country of Iceland. So that's a lot of electricity. So I'm not sure that that's a sustainable thing in going forward. But again, that's not for me to work out. I have absolutely 0 Bitcoins that are real. I have the token ones sitting on my desk that are worth absolutely the scrap metal that they're printed on. Yes. Okay. So
where do you, all right. So here's a valid question though, because this is the conversation that comes up at our house all the time. Is it too late? I mean, like, how high is this going to go and how long? Like, is it going to be around? Is it going to burst? Is it like, what's next?
Okay, so I'm not an economist, but I'm no expert, but I'm not sure the economists are experts in this space either. So what happened, interestingly, just last night was Bitcoin on some companies' futures are now able to happen. So just to educate the audience a little bit about futures, futures is a gambling thing that happens in the the trade. It's very common in oil. Basically, Bob, if you have a $50, or if you want to buy some Bitcoin, and you think the price today is 50, because it is, that's a fact, but you think it'll go up to 150 in so many days, what you can do is you can actually say, okay, I think I'll buy some from you right now for $100, even though street value is 50, betting on the fact that it'll be 150 in the future. That way I will get a profit. And if I'm wrong, that means I lose money. You can also sell short and stuff like that, but it seems to be a zero-sum game where there's a winner and there's a loser. So the Bitcoin community right now is closely monitoring Bitcoin futures as of 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time yesterday. It is now possible to do that.
So do we know how widely the futures are going to be traded? I mean, is it a pretty narrow band of people engaged in futures trading right now, or?
No idea. This is where I wish I had my popcorn that I could eat with my 3D glasses and be like, I just want to watch. Everyone now has 2020 vision. Goes, oh yes, we should have done Bitcoin in the past, and we'd all be rich, rich, rich. But alas, that didn't happen. So I can't even begin to predict. I don't think anyone can predict. I don't know what makes the market move the way it does. It's a great way to move money from country to country, which kind of circumvents, again, law enforcement. You can't freeze assets that are in Bitcoin because who do you serve, again, that warrant to? You can't. All right. Any follow-up questions on Bitcoin? It's probably as clear as mud. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep talking about that one for weeks to come, I think.
All right. So next I want to talk about Ethereum. So Bob.
Wait. So we're going to move from Bitcoin to another cryptocurrency.
Yes,
okay.
because Ethereum is kind of a twist on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin wants to become a cryptocurrency, and it wants to be money, where Ethereum doesn't want to be your money. What it does, it wants to codify difficult transactions in a distributed ledger with the same blockchain technology. So again, when you think cryptocurrency, think blockchain is the underpinning technology. So imagine you want to buy a house. We all do that, right? As we grow older and we are like, damn, how much did I just spend and how much? Okay, whatever. That's besides the point. The point is that's a very difficult transaction. So, if the assessor does this, if this estimate comes in, if the prepaids are done, if this and this, then do that. So wouldn't it be great if you had a blockchain technology with a distributed server that said, hey, you know what? Pay the bank this money or pay so-and-so this money once this very complicated set of things have occurred, but only then. Well, how do we know that this complicated things occurred? Because we could just go in the system and hack it and say, oh yeah, it happened. Well, that's where blockchain comes in, because we have to say, well, what does the consortium say? Does the consortium all agree that this step has actually occurred? Okay, it has. So I'll go to the next step and so on and so forth. So what Ethereum is actually a platform for complicated payments. So it's, I believe, referred to as smart contracts. So basically, it's Ethereum, I believe, is a JavaScript technology. Fact checkers, check me on that. Where Bitcoin is a C# item, and so anyway, smart payments, and then the actual money that fuels Ethereum is not called Ethereum; it's called Ether. I'm just trying to keep track of all the things. 3-letter acronyms were tough enough. Now I have to keep track of all these cool kid cryptocurrency
Code names.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so that is Bitcoin and Ethereum, and Ethereum's trading much lower, but people like to predict that Ethereum will possibly overtake Bitcoin in terms of value, but they have two different purposes, right? So they're both blockchain underneath, distributed ledger. Ethereum, think of it as just I want to do something complicated, and I want to make sure that we have a consensus on that these steps happened. Where Bitcoin is, holy crap, it's money, so mind blown. Very good, Bob. All right, we can move on here, but I will give you the floor for any follow-up questions here.
Wow. So you saw my tech headline for the week was about the Santa tracker on Google, right?
No, I haven't. What is this?
Last week on the homepage of Google, I saw that there was a little link for the Santa tracker.
I've seen it before.
Yeah, it's a whole little village. Not quite as tech heady as Bitcoin and Ethereum and the energy resources required for mining. So yeah, maybe we'll bring that one up again next week.
Okay. All right, Bob, I'm going to transition to something much easier to understand, and it is our Get Us to 250 campaign that we're going to start today. essentially, we have that hashtag there. We want you to share, like, and subscribe. And we want you to get us to 250. Bob, charm the audience.
You know what? This has been great to be part of this, and I think feels like we should be.
It does.
I think it was on my end.
No. Oh, there we go. I think we are back. Apologies. Yep, we are back. All right. Bob, I think you just broke the internet and everyone ran to like and subscribe to us. And I appreciate the bleeding heart sell that you just gave everyone.
Hopefully everyone got it.
Yes. Okay. If not, make sure again you guys like, subscribe, and share this content. Okay, Bob, you know what time it is?
Oh boy, I'm a little frightened based on what we've been talking about today.
All right, we're gonna try quiz time here. Quiz time is a weekly sort of shtick, for lack of a better term, that we do. We're going to...
It's a segment. It's a segment.
All right. Shtick is probably a very New York term, and it's probably not very international. So, all right. So the topic this week is going to be kind of just tech history. So
tech history.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
How you feeling with your tech history?
Only time will tell.
All right. So, all right, we're gonna go with the first question here. The first question will be and these are probably varying degrees of difficulty. This one might be the toughest because this is an actual date or a year that I want from you. So think year. So what year was JavaScript first created?
I'm gonna go with 1990.
You got 3 of the 4 digits correct. It was 1995. And what happened just the year before was Netscape Navigator was introduced to the world. So the natural progression, I think, was, hey, you know what? We should probably have some sort of way to change some of this junk here in this browser. So VB script probably came out just after it in true Microsoft fashion. Hey, that's a good idea. Let's steal it. But hey, I haven't done the research. Maybe I'll look that up. Okay, who knows? Maybe
1995, JavaScript 1995.
Yeah, so who knows? Maybe VB script was first. I jest. Okay.
I don't.
All right, next up is who is often credited with being the inventor of the World Wide Web?
The guy that ran for vice president, Al Gore?
It is not Al Gore. Interestingly enough, when I went to look this up...
Linus Torvald.
It is not Linus. Actually, you're closer to the part of the world. It's Tim Berners-Lee, who is an Englishman, and I believe he is now a professor in England. So Tim Berners-Lee.
Wow, I'm 0 for 2.
That's all right. You might be able to get this one. So Microsoft, I'll give you some information up front here. Along with Bill Gates, who founded tech giant Microsoft in 1975. So it wasn't just Bill. He had help.
The Winklevoss twins.
It was not the Winklevoss twins. Do you care to give an answer? Because I don't think the Winklevoss twins would have... Maybe they were just born back then.
I don't think they were. It's not Steve Jobs. It is... I give up.
It's Paul Allen. And interestingly, he actually left Microsoft in 1982. And I did some further research on Microsoft. Did you know that Microsoft actually bought a operating system, I think called Quick and Dirty Operating System, and renamed it DOS and resold it to IBM, and that was their watershed moment that made them what they are today. So anyway.
So DOS used to be called Quick and Dirty.
Yeah, so I believe the guy's name is Tim Patterson. Again, fact checkers can check that out. But yeah, so anyway.
Fact checkers.
Yes.
On that.
All right, I'm sorry, Bob. So that was 0 for 3 for you. Wasn't trying to actually do that to you, but I was also trying to see how deep your knowledge. You're a couple years older than me. Okay, that's being kind, but all right.
So for those watching the show, if you didn't realize it up until now, Kevin is definitely the more tech savvy of the two of us, and I am just I'm just me.
Bob's the charmer. I am the heartless, technical, just get stuff done, guys. So, all right, Bob. Next up here, we're going to talk about an interesting tweet that we pulled off the Twitters. So, Bob, you want to explain this one?
So it was funny because last week when we talked about 24 days just being a few episodes in, I was very excited that it wasn't very tech centered at the beginning. And then I think right after the show, I saw this tweet 5 days in, one article about Umbraco. Hopefully there'll be more technical content soon. Well, this tweet or this Twitter post actually got its wish. It looks like since then, after the mindfulness, everything has been very tech oriented. So discussions about headless CMS, using Alexa or using Umbraco to drive. You just quiet over there.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
So it's been very tech heavy content since then, and a lot of good stuff. I've got it in my reading queue to kind of just hit on it every day. But yeah, so 24 days has become much more technical pretty much right after that tweet.
All right, Bob, I'm interested to read that. I didn't have time to get to it, but I do appreciate the find there, and I will get to that one as soon as I can. So 24 days in is a part of Umbraco, which is going to be my cue for the next little shiny toy we have here. This is now time for the Umbraco update, and we have a topic that kind of transcends Umbraco here a little bit. And it has to do with Patreon. So, Bob, can you update us? I don't think I have a visual for this particular portion, but what happened over in Patreon land over the weekend?
So I think it was toward the end of last week, they sent out an email and there was a blog post about the changing fee structure. They actually are raising the fee that they collect a tiny bit. And, you know, as with any service and software, you're kind of like, all right, so the fees went up. But it actually impacts the amount of money that the actual the people that are looking for the Patreons receive. So, like, let's say that I had a small, monthly donation, monthly Patreon subscription to one of our open source friends. They actually are getting less money in their pocket now every month because of this fee change. There's no way that it can always be a win-win, but it was obviously a big enough shock to the Patreon audience that they actually posted an immediate update after the fact to try to explain more about the fees and the why behind it. So
speaking of small fledgling open source Patreon accounts here, I think both of us are actually Patreons or patrons. I'm not sure what the actual verbiage is.
A patron makes more sense for sure.
Yes, to Umco. So can you describe for the viewers who Umco is, what they do?
Well, big shout out to these guys. Basically, they are the package gods of Umbraco. It's Matt Brailsford, Lee Kelleher, and I think there's a couple other players involved now too. But basically, they've been the go-to crew for tons of great open source software packages to extend Umbraco. And without them, I'm just not quite sure where the community would be. So huge shout out to them for for what they build, but also for what they inspire.
Awesome. Yeah. So I use a lot of stuff these guys use. Vorto. These guys were the original authors of Nested Content, which takes me to my next topic here. Yes. So I innocently sent this tweet out on Friday. Basically, there's two issues, and I want to iterate that these are actually not my issues that I'm authors of. These were created by two separate individuals. And it's basically, hey, nested content, can we get a couple buttons on there? And that kind of turned into quite the Twitter storm over Friday, Saturday, and it looks like it picked up again today. Niels sent a new tweet today, and it's basically conversation about a topic there, and rather than vote, he wants you guys to elaborate on the topics, how you use nested content. So I'm going to put the soapbox down and stand on it for a little bit. I hope to not browbeat too much here, but a lot of people use the archetype, and I think when that project became sunset, everyone looks to nested content to kind of fill the gap to what archetype provided. And I think one common use case is building rows of content, and part of that experience requires that we disable, that we copy paste. There's a few use cases, quite a few use cases that Archetype provided that nested content doesn't. So I'm trying to champion this like from the sidelines because I myself have converted over to nested content and I kind of miss some features from Archetype. So it is something that's kind of wanted by me, especially because I build a lot of row-based items. I want the editor to be able to kind of sort the rows, add content quickly, things like that. And it creates a really cool dynamic page builder. I actually didn't expect the resistance that has been put up to adding a couple buttons. I understand their position, but I also understand that when something goes core, the power to make quick changes is no longer there. Now, just to also iterate, I think Matt and Lee also advocate Niels's position, which is it's fine the way it is. We don't really need to do anything. The holistic picture is, okay, apparently building things in Umbraco with a row-based thing is a thing. A lot of people do it. A lot of developers do it. And a lot of people have kind of been turned off with the grid because it uses dynamics. It's fairly hard to use from a developer perspective. So I guess the camps are, well, let's use nested content because that's 80% of what we need to do this row-based thing as opposed to grid. And I think Niels wants to do something more of a purpose-built feature. The problem I'm running into personally is I can't wait forever. I need pull requests to kind of be put in, and the word that gets thrown around is Band-Aid. Well, this is a Band-Aid solution, and yes. Have you well, this isn't admonishing Niels or any of the core team, but hey, the open secret about software is it's duct tape and bubblegum together. All your best software is barely, doing what it's supposed to do because we're constantly trying to push the limits. And there is no such thing as perfect code. There is no such thing as a perfect solution. So what we do is we take something like a nested content and we use it to the best of our ability, and we notice a piece of friction. Somebody offers up a pull request, and hopefully that becomes a core item. Now, eventually, it's almost like the financial market. It's very Bitcoin to tie it all together. Eventually, if you duct tape and bubblegum stuff together enough over time, you eventually have to have a correction, and we call that a refactor in software, right? So it's like, hey, we duct tape and bubblegum this together, and it's working, and everyone's happy, but man, this is rickety. Let's redo it. So I am of the opinion that we do incremental changes rather than say, let's do nothing until we get it all figured out. So it's opposing things. I don't think anyone's right or wrong in any of this. It's definitely differing approaches and how would you handle a problem. Me personally, I don't like the idea of using third-party packages to an extreme. So, there's method behind the madness of Archetype going away because it's not core. There was no such thing as nested content versus Archetype war. But when nested content goes core, it kind of invalidates the need for a third-party package. I get that. I got that, and that's why I sunset the project. However, if pull requests aren't going to be addressed timely or, considered, then that becomes a thing. And the only recourse as a community member that I would have is to push, hey, there's some ideas out here, go vote for them, go talk about them. So I would still encourage people to vote for them. I know it's not my platform. Niels holds ultimate authority. That's his prerogative. He holds the executive veto. We all get that. We know that. But you darn right, we're gonna offer our opinions. So, all right, off the soapbox.
Here's a couple things that I found interesting about the whole situation, watching it from the outside. One, I was a little bit confused because it appears that there is a pull request that provides the solution that everyone's asking for, yet there's a decision being made possibly not to implement it based on something. So that's a little baffling to me as someone who's just not part of the in and out of it. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, though, and it's where my mind went when the discussion started when I saw it on Twitter, is that because nested content is so awesome and flexible, you can just add that disabled and actually put in the template to change the way that the little collapsible region is named and identify, yes, does it have the UI polish of, graying out and the little quick toggle? No, but you can actually take the piece of software that was delivered and modify it to suit your needs. But I am still also very confused if there is a solution in a pull request that's been submitted that actually works, then why wouldn't you just adopt it?
So allow me to put the shoe on the other foot. So, with a project like Archetype, I felt bad having to reject pull requests. And so I understand, that it is a possibility that just because you get code doesn't mean you have to use it. In fact, it could go against your dogma, your philosophy. And I think that's what's happening here. It's probably a trivial pull request, but it doesn't matter because it goes against the philosophy of what it is. And that's where I could also get back on the soapbox and say, please don't tell me how I'm supposed to use Umbraco. I will decide how I'm going to use Umbraco. And if I want to take nested content and turn it into a freaking awesome page builder, that's great. But what often gets happen is we get bullied into, well, the user experience isn't good. Please, again, don't tell me how my users feel, because guess what? My users love what I've presented to them. And the thing that I can't overcome will be the fact that, if the core team says, sorry, no thanks, I'll have to get a solution around that, and that's fine. I accept that. But
doesn't that statement kind of illustrate, the fact that we can do it with nested content already? Then the solution's actually already there, and we can determine whether it's implemented or not instead of it being the on-off button out of the box. I'm totally walking the center line here because honestly, it's foreign territory for me.
So
I'm not involved in the software development process. I don't build features and functionality for Umbraco. I implement features and functionality that are already available to be utilized.
So I totally respect everyone's opinion on this. And in fact, when Matt actually offered that as a solution, I'm like, damn, that's a good idea. I mean, it's not perfect, but you know what? I'll take it. So I'm actually not so interested in that one as I am, because there was two topics. It was disabled and there was copy paste. Honestly, I came to this discussion with the second one in mind because I'm like, hey, I got this cool list builder widget thing and we need to replicate it and then change some things. So I want the copy paste, and right now there's no copy paste thing. But what it does is it sparks a discussion of the larger topic of, what does it take to get the community, the people who don't make the decisions, what does it take from us to convince the decision makers at the core that this is a good idea? Because right now I'm on the wrong side. I'm holding the short straw of this discussion, and that's fine. It's like, damn it, Kevin, you can't always win. It's like, no, I can't, but what can I do? What avenues are available to me to try to make that compelling case? And right now, the compelling case I have is Twitter, or at least the form I have is Twitter, and it is the issue tracker. And I'm not trying to tell people to stage a revolt here, but I want you to still vote, because I think voting matters still. I know it's not a democracy, the decision making. They're a for-profit company, but let's go to a different project. I've been on other projects where I've seen a lot of resistance to certain things, and the community's like, no, we want this, and finally they cave. So that's my hope. So yes, I'm hoping.
Well, I think voting's the only way to get that across, because we always talk about, not to totally deviate topics here, but in the Twitter universe for Umbraco, it's really a small slice of the segments of the population that encompass all of the users. So voting is one of the only ways to, instead of it just being a bunch of people saying on Twitter, well, I want it that way, at least there's some kind of tally that can exist outside of that realm.
Yeah. So I don't think the topic will be solved anytime soon. So if I could have a call to action, and that is answer Niels's suggestion and put your use cases and put any compelling reasons why you want. Vote for me if you want to. And again, these aren't even my issues. So these are really, I'm trying to champion for other people, but I think voting still matters. All right. So,
wow, We beat that dead horse.
Yes, we did. And again, I respect everyone's opinion on this. It's good. Talk is good. No talk, no feedback will not get you very far. So, all right, we're gonna transition to something completely different, and this is the wait until eighth topic. Bob, are you familiar with this sort of moniker?
I will admit that up until a couple weeks ago, I was not. And full disclosure, my kids are all much older than that now. So,
So what wait until eighth is for the audience is basically it's a campaign that says smartphones should not be given to children under eighth grade age, and they cite on their website basically it's not good for development. Kids will be staring at screens at a young age, things like that. They do advocate, if your child needs to contact somebody all the major carriers have basically calling and texting only phones and plans and things like that for the younger kids. So let's draw a line in the sand. So if we have eighth grade as the line, where do you fall, Bob? Do you think kids need smartphones younger than eighth grade, or older than eighth grade?
So you mentioned the word need, and one of the things I always say is need is a very strong word. Do I believe kids need cell phones before eighth grade? Heck no. Did my children have them before? Now, they did not have full-blown smartphones. They had some of these, I think my kids had Firefly when they were younger, which basically was a 3-button device, and you could call mom, call dad, call 911, I think is basically all they pretty much were. So my kids have had devices from a pretty early age. And honestly, even as, older teenagers, this is something we struggle with. So I think the campaign's got tons of validity. It's just, how can you, it's each person has to decide practically how that impacts their family.
So
how about you?
It's a
because
tough,
your kids are younger.
It's a tough one. So, well, I have one that's 17 this week. And the rest of them are 9 and younger. So I basically have one that's over the line, and the rest are under the line. They all are very tech savvy, and I'm probably going to be called a terrible parent because they all have their own little Amazon Fires. They can get on, play games and screen time and all that. The easy answer is well, it depends on the kid. So, and that's, but I'm not gonna probably end with that right there. I'm thinking more. I have a third grader, and I could easily see him having a smartphone in sixth grade. So the wife and I talked about this, and we kind of, before I prejudiced the jury with what the campaign said, we both kind of came to the consensus of sixth grade because it's the start of middle school. But
and that's kind of where we were too.
But I can tell you, because the older one, the one in high school now, I learned that cell phones these days are status symbols. Oh, you don't have the new iPhone. Oh, you don't have this. Oh, you must be a poor kid because of that. And the world has changed in many ways, but one way that I would have never guessed is that kids now bully each other based on phone status symbols. I guess when we were growing up, or at least me, it was your clothes you wore. It's like, oh, you don't wear the mall clothes. You do, it's like, yeah.
But that's the evolution, though. I mean, my kids had the same experience. So that's not a new, the technology bullying is not new.
And then next is the content. Oh my gosh. The internet has so much content that is so inappropriate. And it is so difficult to police that when you hand over a smartphone to a kid. I'm sure there's apps. I don't know about any of these apps. My teenager feels way more mature than I'd like him to be, but he does very well. I would like him to be 10 years old again and just pick his nose and watch Power Rangers all day. But apparently kids eventually grow up, and
they do.
So it depends. And if I infuse the conversation with does gender matter, let me ask you that, Bob. You weren't ready for that, were you?
Was not, but it does not.
Okay. All right. So
that's an easy one for me.
All right.
They're all the same.
So right now I'm gonna I think sixth grade if I had to pull it out of the sky, but I haven't had a sixth grader yet because my 17-year-old, he's had a phone probably since third grade, but it was a flip phone. We come from a split household, so that was a lot to do, I think, with his mom.
Right.
But I didn't disagree. Flip phone. There's your call and your texting. He eventually got a smartphone at some point, but to be honest, I didn't write it down or mentally take a note and go, "Hey, you now have a smartphone." So with him, that was like I wasn't tracking this. But now it's on the tip of mind with my younger kids and go, yeah, what age should you guys have? Because my 9-year-old third grader, he has an iPad which has ability to get out on the internet, things like that now. So I need to lock that down probably. So it's the classic moral thing of do you have teaching moments or do you blind somebody, because they don't know what's good for themselves. So I could argue either way. So I don't know if I
lean
have that.
more toward teachable moments.
I do too. To be perfectly honest, because there's plenty of people who don't even know what drugs are until they're now being offered them.
Yeah, until they're hooked.
Yeah. So so it's a topic I'm sure we'll generate some discussion on. But wait until 8th. That is the campaign. It's worth a read, and definitely will spark conversation in your household. And Bob, I think we've reached
that magic hour.
I think we've reached to the end here. So
I like how that went. Wow, we're back over here again, just randomly. I like how that went with the we had the hard tech. Oh, and then I'm back over here again, apparently. Jeez Louise.
All right, Bob, if I could grab the conversation, I'm going to remind the viewers here that we have the Get Us to 250 campaign, the Bob and Kevin hashtag. Share, like, and subscribe us. And Bob, give us that final sales on why you should be liking us.
I think today's episode was a perfect example that we're going to cover everything from tech to family issues that relate to tech a little bit. You're going to get to know how Kevin and I parent our kids. I think it's just, we want you to be part of the conversation. So let us know what you thought of today's episode, but give us that like and share and subscribe, and let's keep the conversation going.
All right. Let's let the music take us out. Thanks, everybody.